can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Nicolas Munn Rico. And Nicolas, before I formally introduce you, he is one of the co-creators, founders of Landmark. It's LNDMRK.com and also muralfestival.com. Before I introduce you, let's point out some other episodes that are cool. Since this is part of the Top Agency series, Nicolas, some other cool ones were Kevin Hergen was a good one of Spinutech. He started his agency in 1995. So it was really interesting to hear the landscape of business, the internet, and also agency life then. And then another good one was Adee Clevitt. Adee Clevitt, she specializes in creating SOPs for companies. So she comes in, if you want to smooth out your onboarding from a client perspective or onboarding from a staff perspective, she'll come in and basically help companies document all of the SOPs, which, you know, make things work to more perfection, right? Also, Jason Swank talked about how he built up his agency to 8 figures and sold it. And then a second interview where he's been buying up agencies. We talk about the valuation space and everything like that. That and many more on InspiredInsider.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. And how do we do that? We do that by helping you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the accountability, the strategy, and obviously the full execution production on the back end. So Nicolas, we're kind of like the magic elves that run in the background and make it look easy for the host and the company so they can create amazing content, amazing relationships, and run their business. For me, the most important thing in my life is relationships, and I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I really have found no better way over the past 15 years to profile the people and companies I admire and share with the world what they're working on. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, you can go to rise25.com to learn more or email us at support@rise25.com. I'm super excited to introduce Nicolas Munn Rico. He's a co-creator of the Montreal Mural Festival and co-creator of Landmark Agency. He's been doing this thing for over a decade, okay? They've served companies over the years like Starbucks, Jose Cuervo, Chiquita Banana, and many, many more. And we're going to talk about how it all started. Nicolas, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for what you're doing. I think it's great to support entrepreneurs and business owners. It's always nice to have an extra push.
I love it. And I, you know, there is a video piece to this. So as Nicolas is talking, I'm going to pull up his website. Obviously, they have beautiful design and everything else, but talk about, just start off with Landmark and what you do.
Of course. So I've been like kind of wearing those two hats like since the past decade, as you mentioned. Landmark is the first company we ever created, if I'm not mistaken. It was in 2012. It stemmed in the desire to connect artists and, you know, the corporate world or campaigns, etc. We wanted to kind of be like that middleman in between to, you know, speak the language of both in some kind of ways. We always wanted to do something special for Montreal. We're big art lovers in Montreal here. We've been like in that world for forever, to be honest. And we wanted to have our own company, and generate our own projects. And that's kind of where it started. And to kickstart the project, basically, it was not even commercial at first. We just invited artists to create in Montreal, hopefully try to find them jobs. But overall, we had a space in the north of Montreal, and we gave them freedom of creation and really immerse people in their world. At the time, Yves Laroche was the gallery who gave us the space, and we kind of like used these first action to kind of like begin our company, let's say. And at the same time, we had another big idea, which was a blessing and a curse at the same time, which we wanted to produce an event to promote the local artist base here in Montreal and invite international artists to express themselves in Montreal. So after a quick trip to Art Basel at the time, if I'm not mistaken, 2012 again, it was the first time Alexi and I went to Art Basel, and we really got completely mind blown about like the effervescence of art over there. A merge of like installation, technology, murals, graffiti, brands were showcasing, gallery were showcasing. It was so rich and so alive, and we're like, okay, we need something like that in Montreal, and like let's build our own version of it. And Montreal's already a big festival city, so we're like, why don't we frame this as a festival, invite locals, invite international, create together. And that we came back with our little manuscript in Montreal and proposed the festival idea to a couple people. And there was only one group of people actually were interested in the idea at the time. It was a merchant association actually, who saw the potential of art to rejuvenate the neighborhood through art. And it was so interesting. So basically we collaborated together to start the first mural festival. And
you weren't busy enough, so you needed another huge project.
Enough,
right?
But at the time, if I'm not mistaken, I was 22-year-old going on 23. So at this time you have some kind of like divine energy of like everything's possible, and you can break down the walls of the impossible. So that's kind of like was
right now. If someone asked you to start that, you're like, I have 2 kids, leave me alone.
I would definitely think about things differently, but we're really passionate people, and we're actually obsessed with the art scene in Montreal and all around the world. And it was the beginning of the new muralism movement, where like the Shepherd Ferry of this world, Banksy, etc. It was like this big like wave of new muralism that was happening at the same time. So we felt like we wanted to be part of that. So for us, it was a must to bring this to Montreal. And then, to come back with a relationship with Landmark. So basically these two companies were kind of born in the same year. So we had a team at Landmark that was a little bit more used to work with brands, and a team at Mural that's a little bit more used to work with artists and programming. And we kind of like merged that knowledge together to get the funding for the festival, but also get the jobs for the artists that we're representing at Landmark at the time. I think it's a long answer to your question, but it gives you a little bit about where we come from.
Talk about with Landmark, how do you get your first client?
So basically, I would say the first phase of Landmark, and over the year, I would even frame it as 3 phases in the past 10 years. The first phase was mostly specializing into art production. So we're basically telling people, we can produce these impossible ideas. We would tell that to the artists, and we tell that to the brands as well. You both have crazy ideas, and we're producers, and we're going to produce your crazy ideas. And that's kind of how it started. And I think, the artists have already their own network. They have their own demand already. They're already speaking with lots of brands. And sometimes they need a company like Landmark, sometimes they don't. But when they do, that's when we come into play, and we help in the production side of things, negotiations type of things. So that's where we come into play. And brands have been maneuvering in and out of art and all around art forever. You know what I mean? It's definitely a very powerful tool for marketing and communicating a message. So that Landmark was the perfect place to be for us, because we're like, we will build this campaign for you. We know how to speak with the artist, but we also, for the artist, know how to negotiate for the brand, or for the artist to the brand. So we kind of like became these kind of middlemen and producer in the middle, and that niche was our niche, and that's how we built successfully since our beginning.
That's really interesting. So, Nicolas, for you, these artists all have maybe a lot of these contacts with brands. Maybe they are not sure exactly how to monetize a project or wholly manage the project. They just want to do the art. And so they may have a connection. They go, hey, we got this. Can Landmark help kind of facilitate the whole project? Yes. Maybe it requires more than one artist, and like so you have a network of artists, and then you help kind of negotiate and make sure the artist gets paid fairly, and help manage the project.
That's exactly it. And we do have a pool of client we constantly speak with also. And sometimes, they have specific needs. So sometimes the needs come from the client as well. Listen, I'm building this campaign. I see right now you're showing Aldo, for example. We want to, we have this shoe. We want to do a worldwide campaign. We want to focus on 5 different countries, help us find the artist, help us find the narrative, and then we want to do the launch event, etc. So we kind of do the research, we do the negotiation, etc. So, and we sometimes produce also. I would say in this case we don't produce the shoes, we would produce the event, or we would be part of the event, and we would accompany the companies from A to Z and support and protect the artist in the process as well. And as I said again, sometimes most of artists are entrepreneurs themselves, right? They run their own show, they run their own companies. So sometimes they have either a team or they do it themselves, but sometimes they need someone like Landmark. So we kind of like play with the artist and with the brand, and we try to create a perfect world for both, basically.
A dual-sided marketplace, Nicolas, can be difficult. I'm curious how it started. Did it come from the artist first saying, hey, Nicolas, I'm talking to Jose Cuervo and I'm not even sure what to do. I just want to do the art. Can you help? Or did it come from a brand first saying Starbucks is like, I need a bunch of artists? You're like, oh, I have a bunch of artists that we can. How did it end up starting?
It did start a little bit on the I would say it started on the artist side or artist side of things at the beginning, because we really focus on 1 or 2 artists at a time. It would be okay, let's find work. Okay, so that was our beginning. We take the portfolio, we go knock at every doors. This is an amazing artist. We believe in him, we believe in her, and this is the next thing, the next big thing. Your brand needs it. That's how we started. And then overall, I would say in parallel with the Mural Festival becoming an overnight success, we started naturally to talk to a lot of brands, and using those connections with the brands, we could transfer to Landmark. Then suddenly the needs were coming from the brands and not from the artists. And then we started already this vice versa relationship really early on. And I think that was the powerful thing about Landmark.
I love this. And now I can kind of see where the Mural Festival comes in, because initially I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot of work to put on this huge festival, ticket, coordinate all this stuff. But this ultimately gets you, it helps the community of artists and gets you known among the community of artists. And so it really helps Landmark a lot as well. So I can really see that. So we'll go to Mural Festival in a second, but for Landmark, one of if you're watching the video here, is obviously you can see this beautiful work here, and it takes a special, I think, type of brand to work with you that want to take chances and want to come out of the box, because not all do. I mean, you can see some of the stuff here with Chiquita, right? And even with Jose Cuervo. I know we'll talk about this. This is a kind of a cool project to look at, because they did these limited edition bottles and actually sold out of them with the art. So it wasn't, obviously it could be, I don't know if it's the same alcohol or maybe it's a special one, but the actual bottle, because of the art, helps make this even more special. So that was kind of a cool case study. And then you can see Starbucks as well. But I know we were talking before you hit record specifically on Aldo for a second. So I'm going to pull up, there's Aldo MX art series, and you can kind of see these shoes. Talk about this project for a second and what you did.
I think you did put the finger on something interesting. At the end of the day, being out of the box is something important for the brands. So when they call us, that's already their goal, so they're all ready to be out of the box. And it could be specifically for a campaign, or it could be for a specific target, or it could be for a specific product, or an anniversary or a special event, and that these are occasions for them to get out of the box and get out of their ways. And I think, for example, the MX series is already a shoes that exists, it's already in different colors, and it becomes a canvas for this new opportunity, and the artists create the new narrative for the shoe, and that was interesting here because they wanted to work with artists from all around the world, and they give them freedom of creation as well. So it was possible to write underneath the shoes, change the lace, go, the inside out. That was a really, really cool and interesting project, and it allowed us to work with artists from around the globe. And these campaigns were actually like really sharp, like it was worldwide. We worked on like prints on buses, posters that were like shown all around the world once more. So that was a really, really interesting project. But at the end of the day, as you say, it's, of course, they want to drive sales, but it's true, a unique narrative, and that only the artists sometimes can bring this to the table. They have their organic crowds, but also their unique art is pushing a message. And that's why sometimes brands wants to connect with artists.
Yeah, I could see also it kind of creates, I don't know, a bit of a scarcity because it's a limited, usually these are limited edition. You can't create, like, they're not mass producing these things. And so when do people, you mentioned something, when do brands come to you? So it could be a special event, it could be anniversary. What are some other kind of triggers that are like, we need something different?
Yeah. So I would say I was kind of mentioning a first phase of Landmark, but the beginning was really about art production. So the one we're seeing right now, I consider it to be a little bit more of the second phase of Landmark, where we focused on licensing. But the first, in our first era of Landmark, it was mostly about production. So eventually, maybe you can come back and go to the Lune Rouge project, but that was a production. So first clients we were working with were clients who wanted to transform a space. Then it became a licensing later on, because we got a little bit more into the expertise and the know-how, and now we pushed that second phase through the licensing. But the beginning, it was, I have a space, I'm building a bar, or I'm building this new mall, or we're transforming the street, and we want artists to be involved. We want to work with local artists. We have this crazy idea, and we always advertise ourselves like being these people who can create those crazy ideas to life. And we also have the network, as you say, like you love relationship. We love relationship as well. So we have those relationship with the artists, relationship with the city, or with different clients, and we connect all those together. So if you go on Lune Rouge, for example, basically they had just bought that new building. It's an historical building. Yeah. And the goal was to, so we did different floors. The specific picture here is to transform a parking lot. So different floors of gray, boring parking lot. Lune Rouge is the company driven by Guy Laliberté, who's used to be the owner of Cirque du Soleil. He's a really creative person, has a person with vision. And
it looks like a totally different space. Like I was even thinking, this is indoors and this is outdoors. No, actually it's the same space. So if you're looking at it, you can see kind of a plain garage. And then this one here, it literally looks like carpeting and you're inside of a space.
Yeah, with this one, we worked with Circle. It's a collective from Los Angeles. And we really like took these 3 floors of parking lot and transformed everything. So you wouldn't feel like you're in this gray, boring piece of concrete. This building now hosts like EA Games and tons of other like entrepreneurs and people in technology, etc. And like, it's a matter of like, the second you're coming to work, you're somewhere else. You're already in the creative space. And in that scenario, they approach us as, let's transform something, let's create something, let's rejuvenate, let's bring life to something that doesn't have it. And that's kind of like the way the conversation starts, I would say.
How did you find him or he find you in this space?
It's a long-lasting relationship. He was one of the first supporter of Mural Festival when we started at the beginning. He came to our launch event and show public support to us, and the relationship started like that.
Love it. So I could see it. So phase 1 was kind of like, okay, we're building these spaces, products. Phase 2 is licensing, and you kind of see some of the like we saw, probably, I don't know if Jose Cuervo found, kind of goes under that category, and Aldo. What was the next phase?
So it's kind of the one we are in right now, and it's been a long-lasting dream that we are slowly working on, which is reshaping a little bit the company into becoming an artist agency. So we started as the production towards licensing, and now there's some artists that we really have a special and unique connection with, where we really want to build them specifically, not just connect them with opportunities, but really like build. And now the goal is to structure ourselves to represent those artists in the commercial world. I mean, we couldn't pretend that to be a gallery. We're not a gallery, so we don't touch to the stuff that a gallery does. But everything commercial, we want to represent those artists. So we're slowly building our roster towards the next phase, which would be to build this agency that represent artists, and that's what we're in right now. It's really a passionate moment right now for us because it's everything's new, and we only work with, obviously, we do connect artists with brands constantly. We have the roster is ginormous, but the exclusive part of it is what we're building right now because we have a special relationship with some of them. We became friends. We have a common vision, and that's what we want to focus on right now.
Yeah, it's all kind of flows together, right? It's like, okay, there is still all of them going in at the same time. It's like, okay, it's not like we've entered phase 2. It's like there's still production going on, still licensing going on,
Yes.
and still the whole artist agency going on. Talk about the licensing piece. That's interesting. Is the artist kind of participating in that if they create some specific, like these 10 special edition bottles, or how does it work from the artist side?
Well, we make sure that everything is clear right off the bat in terms of how many are printed, how many are done, where they're distributed, etc. Because this the formula of licensing, you just need to really understand where the produce how much produce will be done, etc., etc. So it's really to frame the client's desire there to really build a proper licensing program and then to follow it afterwards. But I think it's a nice model because it doesn't involve too much production work as well. So it's a leaner process, which we all appreciate. But then for me personally, that part of it has always been like kind of a passion project because just as like a little funny story, like when I was a kid, I remember I was obsessed with those lollipops called Chupa Chups, and I remember my grandfather, which is one of the person who was my mentor and really got me into art as well. He told me, this is designed, the logo has been designed by Salvador Dali, and blew my mind, because I was obviously one of my favorite artists and I was like, how can this be connected together?
Yeah, because we visualize him in a museum, his stuff in a museum, not like on a lollipop wrapper. So yeah.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, for me, that's where it stemmed, this desire, this strange mix of brand and artists, which to me seems so strange at the time. But so I kind of like wanted to crack that code my whole life, and I think it kind of drove me to build this in my life as well. So for me, it's seeing artists on brands and products has always kind of been a passion, and when I can feel them, touch them, or in the case of Jose Cuervo, have a little sip of them, like I just feel proud. I just feel like it's a good accomplishment overall.
Yeah, and we're looking here at the Jose Cuervo, and that's really cool. They did it on their 222nd anniversary, it looks like, and they had limited edition bottles. Obviously, those limited edition bottles sold out in weeks. So kind of like a really cool way to give tribute to the company in the anniversary.
Yes. There's always a brief somewhere, like, for example, here's the anniversary, and then they give us like some guidelines, and they give the artist some feedback on the company and their desires, and some funny stories, or sometimes they will have the artist travel to the factory or meet the workers or meet the team, just to really immerse the artist into the products. So then it really creates this genuine collaboration. This was a beautiful project. I still have the box here. The packaging was amazing. It was overall like a really good experience.
So then, a little bit after Landmark enters Mural Festival, which is a really great piece of, serving the community, networking with a lot of different people, and becoming kind of the hub. So talk about maybe some of the challenges on doing that. It sounds amazing, but it's a lot of work. And there's a cool video here. Talk about some of the challenges of putting this on.
You can maybe choose the video about the festival. There's one of them is a recap. event. I'll let you find it for a second. It's not this one, the other one. Okay, perfect. You can put this one in the background just to show, because obviously I think I would say that one of the biggest challenges of Mural Fest was that it became very big very quickly. And that was kind of
It's a good problem, I guess, right?
It's a good problem to have. And I think, when you don't really understand the scope of things, when I think we were a little too young to really understand the weight that we were putting on our shoulder. But I would say, again, we were leading by passion. So for us, nothing was impossible. And when our vision was to create this mural event, then we connected with this merchant association, which said to us, do you want to take over that street closure as well? Because this would be a great occasion to frame it with dates. You guys take over the street closure. The street closure was kind of like this needed a lot of love, per se. I would try to be with nice adjective, needed a lot of love. The neighborhood needed a lot of love. So they were kind of like, take over the street closure, frame it as the Mural Festival, give us programming on the street, paint on the walls, etc. And then with our endless ambition at the time, we also kind of rented the parking lots that were available on the street and set up stage. And I
mean, there's a lot of logistics involved in this. I mean, at this point, you need like security, you need traffic control, you need all these things. And you're like, listen, we just want to have an event. And
yes,
there's a lot involved.
There is a lot involved. And I mean, over the years now, we understand how to make all those things, but everything had to be learned from scratch, to be honest. And I think I would kind of define us as pure entrepreneurship spirit, where we didn't even have the school background to do all those things. So basically it was all like pure will, and we really worked hard with our muscles. Now we're working a little bit more with our brains. But I think one of the biggest challenge, one was the size and respect be able to finance the festival and respect the integrity of the artist and the movement we were representing at the same time. We are mostly representing, the muralism community, but it was overall also crossing with the graffiti community. And then we just needed to understand a little bit more about how this things works, and how, it's not just about the city politics and the brand politics. It's also about, I would say, the street politics as well, and how artists works amongst themselves. There's tons of layering there as well. So learning all this was a pretty aggressive learning curve, to be honest, in all the fronts and all the sides. But I think we managed to find a good middle ground, because, hey, we're still here 12 years after, always bigger and better. We invited, all the biggest artists to Montreal. We managed to, probably right now our collection of walls in Montreal is probably around 125 walls standing at the moment. We did showcase so many local artists, kickstarts so many careers as well. So that was,
you can see this
really
building. It's really cool stuff on this video.
Yes. You can also see that we're trying some stuff out, like trying to push the movement further as well. So we do projection mapping on the walls, try to change the 2D aspect of things. We started to do theatrical play around the murals as well, set up block parties near the walls as well. I think one of the other challenges was kind of the democratization of the movement at the beginning, because I would say we could put a poster out and say, hey, we're inviting Shepard Fairey in Montreal. At the time, no one knew who anyone was. So it was kind of a challenge at this time. So we were, hey, here are all these cool artists we're bringing to Montreal. And literally like maybe 5% of the population would know who it was.
Probably, yeah.
Exactly. So for us, it was about finding a recipe that allowed people to come and discover that over time and become expert themselves. And for us, the street closure and the music were kind of key aspect of generating mass amount of people, immerse them in the event and surround them with art, and have them ask the question themselves and find out about the artist on the spot. And over time, it created this education, and now people know a lot more about muralism and these artists and etc. There's so many more organisms doing murals in Montreal, but we kind of differentiated ourselves by, this is a celebration, this is an event, this is the moment to celebrate all of us, all the artists, all the collective, and do it all together at once and exchange together. That's kind of like was our thing that would our differential aspect, I would say. But yeah, there's tons of challenges. I could go on and talk for hours about so many challenges, but I think I kind of isolated a few here.
Why do you think it took off so quickly? Because a lot of
I
people
think
put on events and try things and no one shows up.
I think, I mean, it's hard to point out. I would say one thing is there was a desire for a big art event. I think Montreal is a big festival city, and I think there was nothing of its kind. There was and still is a graffiti festival called Upfest, and it's really it was there, but we just brought a new life and a new scale. And I think that's what was interesting. And it emerged with urban culture, with like hip hop and muralism and all the local brands and etc. Like it really like had this unique recipe. And I would say also something that I now think it can point on is I think there was nothing for the generation that we were presenting at the time. And when I say that is there was those big jazz festival, there was those big Just for Laugh festival, etc. But they were not speaking to our generation at the time, and they didn't have a programming that was adapted at the time. There was no hip hop in the festival. There was nothing talking to the 20-year-old at the time. So, and 20 to 30-year-old, I would say. And we kind of came in and say, let's take that space. Let's give them what we want to see. What we want to see is what they want to see. Let's bring something that we all want to enjoy and not go to these. And I think overall these festivals adapted and became super awesome again. But it was a pocket of time where it kind of was a little bit more bland. And without disrespect, I think they're doing amazing work. But I think that's kind of when we came into play, and it brought so much colors and novelty that like I think it turned ahead really quickly in a way. But that's I think would say is my own analysis of things. And I say also something that was differentiating is the walls, they stay afterwards, and the event comes and goes. Yes, the celebration, but the walls stay there, so it does this rejuvenation aspect that is not just a big party. Also, it stays there.
It's long lasting. Yeah, I could totally see how it revitalizes certain areas, or if they are nice, it just makes them look super interesting and nice. I know we only have a few more minutes, Nicolas. I wanted to just talk about the team. What's the team look like behind Landmark and Mural?
The team, we are lucky because the team.
This is one of my favorites, but I just have to say this. Looking above on this field, these hands grabbing each other is crazy, and it looks like they kind of like spray painted it's incredible how they created this.
I know this is the crazy part, is because even when you're in front, you don't even see it. You need to be like really taking an angle to see that part, and that was part of a project of Sipe, European artist, and he's doing those hands shakes all around the world and connecting communities and connecting the world together as kind of his message. And it was his first in North America, and it was kind of a very specific project because as you see, it's a unique canvas, right? We're painting on the Mount Royal, which is hard to think about with all the layering of rules and etc. surrounding parks and city and etc. But he used kind of an ancestral technique that's biodegradable. Sorry, I'm trying to find the right word, but with eggshells and ash and, something that was like an ancient technique and that goes away with time and without damaging the ecosystem, which and also kind of touches on the ephemeral part of street art, which sometimes appear and disappear really fast. So that piece was lasting for approximately a month for people to enjoy. And then we kind of became part of this gigantic campaign of love and community that this artist was bringing to Montreal. Beautiful project, one of my favorite as well.
So quickly, I know we only have a minute, but about the team a little bit.
Yeah. So we have I would say, a fairly small team overall. I would say, Mural Festival, approximately 10 people, Landmark, approximately 10 people, and very similar dynamic in terms of who does what. But we are lucky that our people are really passionate and have been with us for a very long time. I would say maybe 1/3 of the staff right now and the team right now has been there for maybe since the beginning. So there's just, I can see how passionate they are, and it's amazing. And growing with them has also been an amazing experience. So without them, nothing's possible, obviously. And it's always feel like home going back to the office.
Nicolas, I want to be the first one to thank you. Thanks for sharing the journey. This is fascinating. Everyone can check out landmark.com. It's LNDMRK.com, and check out muralfestival.com as well. And we'll see everyone next time. Nicolas, thanks so much.
Thank you, Jeremy.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.